It's the afternoon of the inaugural London Craft Week Create Day, and you find us in Shoreditch in the southern corner of Hackney, East London. The reason we are here in these rather unpromising surroundings is because we are on the trail of an elusive apex crafter, the Bespoke Shoemaker, or to give it the correct title, the Cordwainer. Not to be confused with the more common cobbler or shoe repairer, which can be found all over the country. Our cordwainers have their stronghold in London, where customers travel from all over the world to have their shoes made by these highly skilled artisans. And Hackney has traditionally been the borough of London with the highest density of shoe businesses. In 1860, for example, there were over 40 manufacturing businesses here, so we are hopeful to bag us a genuine cordwainer. Steeped in folklore with tales of strange relationships with elves, our aim today is to debunk some of these myths and find an actual live cordwainer in their natural habitat, and to find out more about the lives of these masters of craft. Using trained trackers, the team has scouted the area and assure me that through this very door we will find our quarry. I've been told to look out for the telltale signs of the cordwainer's presence. And look there at the sign, Carreducker. Now that is a name long associated with hand-sewn shoemaking. Things are looking promising. Right, we're going in. So, as I open this door, oh look, straight away you can see footprints. This is very exciting as it confirms the presence of at least one cordwainer in their natural habitat, the workshop or studio. This is a tremendously important event, as these master crafters have rarely been filmed before in their natural habitat. Let's follow the footprints and see where they lead. Oh, and look here, at last, the wooden blocks that cordwainers carved to make the shoes on. Well, it seems that this very door, 50 Chocolate Studios, is the one that we need to go in. So I'm going to gently push the door open. I'm going to be as quiet as possible. The footprints continue. Well, it's fantastic to be in the lair of the cordwainer. Let's take a look. Oh, and there she is. This is a real-life cordwainer at work at her bench. This is unprecedented and very exciting. I'm going to approach with caution. Let's see if she will talk to us. Hello, cordwainer.
Hello, you found us all right.
This is a great start. She seems friendly and relaxed. I'm going to approach her. So, cordwainer.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'd love to. I'd love to show you a little bit about my workshop as well. Let me just put my work down. We're going to come back to that later. We're going to show you some more of our stitching and work. So my name's Deborah and I'm one part of Carreducker, and we're hand-sewn bespoke shoemakers based in Shoreditch in London. I retrained to become a shoemaker or a cordwainer. I took a scholarship from the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust. I was very fortunate to be supported by them, which meant that I could do a traditional apprenticeship. And I changed my career. I used to work in public relations, but I've always loved making things with my hands. And so with their support, I was able to learn shoemaking, and I've been making shoes now for nearly 20 years as part of Carreducker, but nearly 25 years with my training and on my own. But maybe it's time to have a look a little bit more at the workshop. There must be other shoemakers in here. I'm sure James is here somewhere.
Well, I was hoping to see more. Maybe you could try to find him.
Let me take control. And let's go and have a little look. So we're going to be back at the shoemaking bench, which is what you're looking at here, shortly. But for now, let's go and have a little hunt. We're also coming to have a look in the cabinet here and to have a look here at some of our work. Create Day is all about making things. So let's see if we can follow the footprints and find somebody else who's making. So we're in the schoolroom here, and who do we find? But here's James, my business partner.
Hello, my name's James Ducker. I'm the other half of Carreducker. We founded the business in 2004, so we're in our 16th year together. And welcome to our studio. It's very good to have you here, and we're going to show you around some of the things we do here at Carreducker.
Shall we show them all? Do you want to tell them a little bit about how you got into shoemaking?
Yeah, so I started shoemaking in 1991. I was living in Spain, and I was teaching English, and I was doing a class with a student, and we were talking about the third conditional, and one of the questions was, what question would you do if you could do any job in the world? And when she reversed the drill and asked me, I said, oh, I'd be a shoemaker, not really meaning it, but it was the first thing that came into my head. And it turned out that her father was a master shoemaker, and she said, oh, he teaches, and she gave me all the details. So I went and did some courses, and I made about 15 pairs of shoes there. And then when I came back to the UK, my plan A was to go to a bespoke shoemaker's called John Log, which is probably the most famous one in the world, probably, and asked for an apprenticeship. And I was very lucky, and they said yes, and within 2 weeks I was starting. And that's where I met Deborah. We were trained by the same master shoemaker, Paul Wilson. Hello, Paul, if you're watching. And yeah, so we kept in touch. I worked for John Log for many years, and Deborah started her own business. And then in 2004, we started Carreducker. We started off primarily with bespoke shoes, but in 2006 we started our first teaching, which was a 2-week intensive course, just one, and over the years that's built and become very popular. And 3 years ago we moved to this premises, 50 Chocolate Studios, because we needed more space. So we now have 2 rooms. We have the classroom here and the bespoke room next door, which you just saw. So I think we're going to have a little walk around and tell you a bit about the courses that we do.
So shall we start with some of the student work? So as James said, our courses started out teaching just one course a year. And we've now expanded, and we teach quite a wide variety of courses. And we've set out on the table here some examples of the type of work that students make in class, and some of the courses and classes that we run.
So, for example, these two were made a few weeks ago on a one-day shoemaking course that we do. It was a husband and wife who came in, and it was it's basically a one-day course where they pull the upper onto the last, and then we send it away to have the sole stitched on, and so you, at the end of it, you get a very lovely pair of shoes which you've had a hand in making. And these 2 uppers are for the same course. It's a one-day course, but it's a father and son who are going to come in and make their shoes together. So the son chose the leathers, which are fantastic. I very much like them. But we also run evening classes. So we do that 3 times a week, Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And some of these on the table now that you're looking at are examples of student work from the evening classes.
This pair are just about finished. They need to have the edge finishing done and the soles need to be finished, but they're just about there. This pair have a distinctive stitch that you can see, which is called Norwegian welt. So the leather that you see sticking out there will end up becoming part of the sole, which is what you can see on this pair of boots here. So they've got a sole stitch as well as the Norwegian welt stitch, which is a very waterproofing technique and great fun to learn to do. And as you can see, it's very popular in class, because here's another student who's using that technique on his boots, which are going to look very smart when they're finished.
We also do intensive shoemaking classes, very much more one-to-one now, due to recent events. And people come from all over the world to study with us, and many of our students have gone on to start their own businesses.
Joe says hello. Hi Joe, nice to see you. He's in our chat room at the moment saying hello from Seoul.
Yeah, so so we're really proud of that, actually. That's one of the joys of teaching, is that it can set people on a new career path. And we think that making things is a really important part of being human, and very, very good for your mental health. And being Mental Health Day, we think it's a really good message that using your hands and switching off your brain from your daily woes is a very, very healthy thing to do. And our students definitely find that to be the case. I mean, we get people who want to be shoemakers, but we also get people who just want to do it for pleasure and enjoy the craft. And it's great to see, and it's also very good for us to have contact with the outside world, because sometimes shoemaking can be a little bit lonely, so we enjoy the contact with the people.
It's been fantastic coming back to have people in class, hasn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
And I think they felt it as well. The isolation that a lot of people have experienced, the fact that we've got a big enough table here where we can separate out up to 4 students at a time, really makes a difference. And for people who are in lockdown, who are working from home, often that's quite an isolating experience. So again, for them to be able to come and switch off completely, as Jem said, is a fantastic opportunity. One of our most popular classes, so these aren't shoes that we've made, we've bought these on eBay, just to show how a terrible a state shoes can get into. And the one on the right is obviously before, and the one on the left is after. And they're the examples that we use when we're teaching in our polish class. So we can have, again, up to 4 students. James is desperate to get his hands on the whiskey.
We only serve quality, as you can see.
We've got a nice selection of single malts, which we add to from time to time, or which are added to by some of our very generous students. And people come in and they bring a pair of favourite leather shoes to renovate, and we show them how to do that so that they look beautiful at the end. And they sit and enjoy a convivial glass of whiskey, or pretty much whatever their fancy is. And it's a really lovely, relaxed way of learning how to look after your shoes.
And it's a group class, so you need a minimum of four friends to come in. And because you're doing it with your friends, it's a lot of fun, and obviously having the odd dram of whiskey is a pleasure too. We also do those courses, the shoe shine courses, with as a corporate training day or team building, and we've done it here at 50 Chocolate Studios, and we've also done it on site. So that's another aspect of what we do, which we enjoy a lot.
And you'd be surprised how competitive it gets, trying to see how high a shine you can get on your toes. The other classes that we run, so we run a plethora of shoemaking courses for beginners, and also for those who are interested in developing their skills. But we've also started to explore leathercraft, really just as an extension of the beautiful natural veg tanned leathers that we work with. We obviously have offcuts from working with them for the uppers, and a way of using up those smaller sections is to make small things like these card cases. So this is a Tempesti veg tan leather. It's Italian, and the more that you handle it and look after it, the more beautiful it looks. So we run evening classes, which are just very simple saddle stitch classes, nothing too complicated. But saddle stitch again is a very satisfying technique to learn. There are many different ways of doing it, as I've found out, but the one that we use seems to give a very good finish and a consistent stitch, which is what's most important. So students go away with something that they feel very proud to have made, and they can personalise it with their own stamps, with letters and alphabets. And as a result of that, we've also started to produce little fob kits and kits that people can make at home. So we do Zoom support online in response to what's going on in the world, so people can keep making at home.
And there's a couple of examples of the kits we do over there.
So this is the sort of thing that you would receive. We also do the shoemaking materials and tools as a kit, so you can actually make shoes from home. The course notes that we have developed are very comprehensive. We've spent a very long time taking what was 4 years training for us and turning it into a 12-day, 96-hour training class.
And in fact, we are in the middle of creating online content for completely remote learning of the shoemaking, which is something we decided to do when lockdown happened, because we realised that people were going to be spending more time at home, so it seemed logical to allow them to do it with videos and online support.
We've been planning to do it for ages ourselves, but we just never really, lockdown gave us the time to spend doing the filming, and I'm currently in the middle of editing. So those first few films should be coming out in the next couple of weeks.
So what you're looking at now is another strand of our business, which is called the Tool Shed, which is an online tool and materials shop. So we sell shoemaking tools, materials, leathers, lasts around the world. So that's become quite an important part of our business. And you've also got some of the key fobs, folio, dog collars, which are some of the things that we do in the leatherwork classes. And at the top we have sandal making, which again is a short course where you come in, we draw around your foot, and then you choose the template of the style of sandal you want, and then we cut it to length and we glue it in place, and then we finish it off with a sole and a small heel. So that's a nice class again to do in a group.
And then if we go across, here's a couple of examples of the ready-to-wear that we produce. So we did a couple of Kickstarter programs, Kickstarter campaigns. The boots on the right-hand side, in fact James is wearing a pair today.
Yeah, I am.
Are tour boots, and they're made by William Lennon in Derbyshire. They're stonking great solid boots that will never wear out. They have this wonderful
riveted construction, so they cement the boot, and then they have this machine. There's only 4 left in the world, which has a roll of serrated wire which they fire into the boot, and then it cuts it off, so you've got these rivets which hold everything together, so they're pretty much indestructible.
And they're felt lined using 100% wool upholstery felt, so they're very hard. They're hard wearing on the outside but super soft on the inside. And then these boots are made in Suffolk by Jad Shoes, and they're a classic desert boot to our design, made in a variety of natural veg tanned leathers. And then this is an old favourite of ours, the Winker. So these were made up in Sheffield. We've now ended production of them, but we do have back stock if anybody's interested. This is an old shoe stretcher, which is one of our beloved pieces of equipment. Doesn't count as a machine for all those students that we tell we don't use machines.
Well, We were just about to see the only machine we use.
Well, I haven't got there yet.
No.
I'm easing them in.
So it's that's how we make our designs. So we tape up the last, and the last is that wooden block that we make the shoes on. So we tape it up with masking tape, draw the style lines that we want for the particular shoe that we're making, and then from there we can break down the pattern. Because we make bespoke shoes, every last is different, so the proportions have to be suitable for each customer's foot. So we do our best to make the shoes as flattering as we can, given that people's feet vary hugely in shape. So we will make a pair of shoes that will make their feet look the best they can.
There it is, the machine.
Now that's our grinding wheel. We use primarily for starting off grinding, sharpening knives. So we don't actually use it very often, but it is a useful thing. One thing about hand sewn shoemaking is the name gives it away really, is that all the tools that we use are handheld.
Let's have a look at those, shall we?
Yeah.
I'm going to whiz down to this end. So these are just a snapshot of the tools that we use for the leathercraft courses. So we've got, these are stitching ponies, and they're designed to be taken apart so you can actually travel and stitch as you go, which is quite fun. And then the rubber mallet, which is used for the monogramming and to make the stitch holes. And it's designed so that it doesn't damage the stamp or the hole punch that you're using. But let's have a look at the shoemaking tools.
So these are a variety of irons that we use for principally the finishing to make the shoes look lovely. In fact, if I grab this student shoe and put it there, that shoe is functionally finished. You could take the last out and wear those without any difficulty. But as you can see, it doesn't look like a finished shoe. So all of these irons are used in the various processes to make it look beautiful and shiny and finished with hard edges and as you would want a shoe to look. And then these are awls that we use for stitching. There's two processes in the making of a welted shoe. The first being the welt. So this is the insole, and we create the holdfast, which is a raised part of the insole. And you can see with those awls we saw before, we make holes, and then we pull the upper onto here with the last inside, and then the next part, which is the key point about the construction that we do, is this called the welt, which is a strip of leather which is we stitch through the welt, through the upper and through the insole, and that makes a very, very strong shoe. And it also means that when the sole wears out, you just take the sole off and you can replace the sole as many times as you like, which is a really, really good thing, because given that our shoes last 20 to 30 years, you will need to replace the sole every now and then. That's a finished welt there with the stitching. And that is a shoe we made that went wrong. So we thought, let's cut it in half so you can see all of this is leather. It's so hard that when people see it, they think it's actually wood, but it's leather. So you can see it's flexible, which makes walking in it much more comfortable than you'd think. But the heel is built layer by layer with paste and nails.
And the leather that we work with comes from a very small tannery down in Devon, in Collerton. And the leather is pit tanned, which is an ancient way of tanning using oak bark, so using a local resource. And what you end up with, it's tanned for over 12 months. And what you end up with is leather that is, as James said, flexible, but extremely hard wearing.
It's amazing leather, and it's English, which we like very much.
There's a couple of rolls of it up here on top of our student. So that's what it looks like when it comes into us. Or sometimes we have it pre-cut. So that's soling leather, and then you've got insoling leather here. These are scraps that we use for the shank at the waist.
If I
These
get,
are,
if I get that down, you can see.
I'm very mindful that we've got the bespoke room yet to visit.
So you can see it's good solid stuff. Right, let's go next door then.
So just as a reminder for students when they're learning, we have this lovely, useful list, which is the 200 plus steps in shoemaking. So often when they come in, if it's an evening class, they'll come in and just go, now where am I? Where am I on the list? And then we'll show them where they are. So I'm going to follow the footsteps through to follow James. And this is our bespoke showroom and workshop. He's donned an apron, which means he's getting ready for business.
Genuine crafter here.
So let's first of all just have a look at the bespoke cabinet. So we bought this online and just think it's the most beautiful piece of furniture to show off our shoes. So when customers come in, we show them basically an array of shoes, which gives them ideas and inspiration about what it is that they might like to commission.
Styles, colours, leathers, toe shapes.
And there's 4 really distinct construction techniques that we focus on.
So this one is called a storm welt, and you can see that the welt, which is this piece of leather, has been stitched onto the side of the shoe and then turned out, and then we stitch through the turned out piece of welt, and then we stitch the sole on. So you can see there's 2 rows of stitching there, which is how we described it before. And this one has a commander sticker sole on. So that's a hunting and stalking boot. The next one is a similar construction, as you can see the welting stitches on the outside. So, but this time it's through the upper leather, and the upper leather is twisted out and stitched again.
Like the examples that we looked at that the students make next door.
This is called a beveled waist, where the leather of the sole is folded up over the stitch. That stitches continue in here in the waist, but they're covered by the sole, which gives it a more elegant, dressy look. And then the last one is called a square waist, where the stitching goes from the heel mark all the way around to the other heel mark, and you can see it all the way around. We do, if you pair of dress pumps in Peyton.
You were going to say, sorry.
I was going to say about the last. So every customer that we measure their feet, and we make a pair of lasts, which are those wooden blocks that you can see up there. And when we do the fitting process, we have to adjust the last. So we always do one fitting, often it's 2, and then you can see from some of the lasts that they've got bits taken away, bits added on to make sure that the fit is right.
So traditionally we would be making using the oak bark leather that we've looked at next door, but people's tastes have changed over the years, and increasingly we're asked for a softer or a more versatile style shoe. So we've actually developed a new collection. I'm going to swing round over here.
Yes. Now this is what we call bespoke manufactured. So the fit is the same in as much as we measure your feet and make a last. And then the fitting process is the same. So we adjust the last and make sure everything fits right. Then we hand last them and hand welt them, like this is a Norwegian welt again. But the difference with this service is that the sole is machine stitched. So this is a machine stitched sole here. And likewise, this pair of Oxfords, which we would normally do by hand with the bespoke hand sewn, this is machine stitched and finished. You still get a beautiful shoe, but it makes the price a bit lower. And this one is a very lightweight casual shoe with a rubber sole. So again, the bespoke manufactured is to give people more options. You can have a deck shoe, a walking boot or anything you want really, whereas the bespoke hand sewn is a traditional leather soled, slightly more formal looking shoe.
And the last little section we wanted to show you was the development of one of those bespoke manufactured styles, which is a sneaker. So we've been looking at developing a sneaker for 5 years, 4 years? Many years. And never quite, these were some early iterations. We'd looked at a car shoe. So something that was soft and flexible and much more relaxed in terms of style. So that was an early iteration, and this is the pattern pieces that had been drawn onto the last. You can see we were looking at eyelets in the waist, and whether we did, so this is called a blind eyelet where there's no metal visible, so whether we did that, which is what we would use traditionally on our hand sewn. And then I did a project last year called the Maker Project. Maker Project 2019, which was a challenge, a research project to explore making and the learning of making. And I was one of a group of about 11 artists and designers who were tasked with redesigning a Cox & Co chair. So I chose to work with oak bark, and in exploring the scale of stitch and stitch pattern, James and I started to talk and discuss using our leather that we use in shoemaking in different ways. So the welting leather, for instance, sprung to mind when we were considering the foxing, which is this section of the sneaker. It's really the sort of the piece that gives a sneaker its silhouette. And recently, some of the samples that I had developed for that project, we started to look at in terms of creating foxing.
So we explored stitch length and finish, because this leather is unfinished. There has no top dressing, so it's very easy to colour it and wax it as you want it to look. So that was our first design, which we also chose a veg tanned calf, which again is very burnishable, so it doesn't have a finish that you would normally find on a factory leather. So when you do that, the oils from your hand start to make it shine, so you can get a finish on it that you really want, and it's a very beautiful kind of living leather. It has a lot of life in it. This was the first upper we made, and as part of the design process, we like to label the things that we wanted to change. So we liked it, but we weren't quite happy with it.
It's really down to the details. So until we can see it on the last, we can see it as a sketch, and we can see it on the last as a drawing. But until you actually see it in the material itself, some of those decisions you start to reassess. And that's what this process really helped us to do. So
if you can see some of the things we didn't like about that one, but we changed it, and this is the next version, which we think
it's probably 98% there.
We actually really love it. We think it's fantastic. So that it's not quite finished, but this foxing is hand stitched, which is unusual for a sneaker. We're going to play slightly with the height of the foxing. We're not quite sure whether this is quite right yet, but we're definitely on the way with it.
And as you can see, it's got padding through the tongue. It's got padding here on the quarters, padding at the heel. So it would have that first impression when you put on a shoe and you want to go, oh, that's lovely. That's what we're trying to achieve with this particular style.
Because people are very used to very soft, easy to wear sneakers, so that we need to mirror that. And the last thing that we were going to show you was some of the techniques that we've used to make it.
So I'm just going to show you some of the saddle stitch. So I'm going to mount my pony, as it were.
That's a pair of riding boots we made a few years ago, which are rather beautiful. So,
You are filming me mount my pony then, are you?
I am, yes.
Am I on? No. So I know there are lots of different ways people do this. This is how I do saddle stitch, which I think works very well. So I'm just using a single ply thread, which is a little bit smaller than I would probably like for the size of hole that we've made, but which is effective in contrasting against the Norwegian welt stitch, which James will be showing you shortly. And we thought it would just be nice to finish Create Day doing a little bit of creating. So the two layers of we've used 2 pieces of welt here, and we've sanded the section that is stuck together, and then we've burnished it. We've used gum tragacanth, which is a natural product which we use when we're working with the leathers next door for the small leather accessories, and it gives a beautiful natural shine and sheen to the leather, and it also helps to close down the fibres, so it should make the welt a little bit waterproof.
I'm just going to come in a little bit and just really see the detail on the stitching.
And we're also exploring what thickness of welt to use. So I think we've used a 2mm, is that right?
Yeah, 2mm.
Whereas normally with the welting on the shoes we would be using a 3mm, or sometimes even thicker for a sturdy welt. So the next step will be that we will finish these sneakers, have the soles fitted, and then we're actually going to, we always like to trial new styles, so we'll have them worn.
And then we'll make some for customers. So you can all join the queue.
So that's just an example. So the holes are pre-punched. We use a 6x2mm punching chisel and a hammer after the 2 layers were glued together. And then James is gonna hand you over to me, and he'll be showing you how we Norwegian welt.
How we attach it
the
to
next
the shoe.
section.
Yeah.
So if you can hand over, thank you.
So this is, we always start in the on the inside at the heel, because that's probably the least visible part of the shoe, and this is most shoemakers will go in from the outside on a storm welt or foxing, but we have decided that we get a more accurate positioning if we go in from this side. So that's what we're going to do. So hang on a minute.
What do you need?
I'm just going to take a nail out. Here. So currently it's held together with nails, but as you do the stitching, you take them out and replace them with the stitches.
So the thread that James is working with is, did we do 4-ply then?
This is 5.
5-ply. So it's 5 lengths of thread twisted together and waxed, and then the needles are actually acrylic bristles. So traditionally those would be boar bristles, but we need something, we like to use, well, the boars don't like it, but we like to use something that is reusable. So an acrylic bristle is more forgiving also to a shoemaker. You can bend it and be quite rough with it, whereas a boar's bristle you have to be very delicate with.
Try and keep the holes as small as we can so that they're less visible on the finished product.
We had lots of debate about the stitch lengths, as we said when we were looking at the work that we did with the chair project. With shoemaking, a lot of it's about proportion.
Got caught up there.
And flow, so the flow of the design.
So
it's pleasing to the eye.
That the threads are on the right side of each other, so that we get a nice stitch. I've got my silver pen mark here, so I need to make sure that I get
lining it up
on the right place.
And nothing like a little bit of creating on Create Day. It would be nice to finish with some making. We've also made a short film showing a little bit more of these techniques, which you can watch on the website. And if you're interested in finding out more about shoemaking and about the courses and classes or about Bespoke, then you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Carreducker.
And YouTube.
And YouTube. So we've got there's other making films on the YouTube channel, and as James mentioned, we'll be putting our full shoemaking course, module by module, up on our channel in the coming weeks.
And there's a lovely film on our YouTube channel that we made as part of our exhibition at the Design Museum, which goes through all the stages in making a shoe, all condensed into 6 minutes. So if you want to see more of the techniques that we use, that's a really nice way to do it. I got a bit tangled up there.
It happens. So we're just about done. We'd just like to thank you all for joining us on Create Day.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
And as I say, we hope you'll visit us again at some point.
And enjoy any other films that you watch.
So goodbye from James. And goodbye from me. See you again soon. Thank you.
Bye.
That's going to be the bit at the end because I still don't know how to turn it off.